Welcome to MindShareTV. I'm your host, Robert Martellacci, and today I'm thrilled to have with us one of the world's leading futurists, Jim Carroll. With a career spanning over 25 years, Jim has inspired over 2 million people globally with his insights on emerging trends and innovation. As we approach 2025 in this transformative age of AI, Jim's expertise couldn't be more timely. Jim, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me in.
Wow. It's the best of times and the worst of times, perhaps, as I would categorize 2025. Talk to me a little bit about your journey and what are some of the emerging trends, and you've pivoted as well. We were both in Mississauga at one point, and then you segued. You're in the Toronto area. You remain in the Toronto area, the GTA. Things change, but some things stay the same.
Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of years. I mean, I'm coming from my virtual broadcast studio here, which I spent a lot of time in during the pandemic. I'm, the last couple of years back to in-person events. I'm actually in Dubai the end of next week, being brought over by the office of the Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates to speak to probably about 600 senior government officials, cabinet members and such about future trends and what comes next and what do we need to do to align to the opportunities of tomorrow as opposed to trying to go back to yesterday.
Fascinating times. You've spoken at NASA, you've spoken at the United Nations, you've worked with world leaders. There's been some suggestion that Canada become a 51st state, and it's hard to ignore that as I'm preparing for our 31st Can-Am Celebration of Excellence partnering reception in Florida next week. Let's touch on that. My former boss at the Learning Company, Kevin O'Leary, has been chiming in as well. I'm a very proud and passionate Canadian. I think there's more important issues that wouldn't make my top 10 list if I was president of the U.S.
Look, I have to avoid the topic when I'm on stage. I think from my perspective, it's going to be a very long 4 years. The thing is, and I wrote about this morning in one of my blog posts. I think that the challenge with all of this is that a lot of future opportunities have become a part of the culture war. And so, for example, my blog post this morning, I'm writing, I think we're seeing the end of the North American, Japanese, and German automotive industry. China owns the future of the automotive industry because they've doubled down on electric. Legacy organizations did not. Renewables have become a part of the culture wars. Accelerated medical science has become a part of the culture wars. So, I mean, it is a very real thing that when I'm in Dubai next week, they're very aligned to the 22nd century and what do we need to do to get there. And we've got other regions of the world who are sort of saying, hey, 1950 was great, let's go back there. And the future doesn't work like that. It's a very complex time. It has actually made things very, what's a good word for it, interesting in trying to talk about these issues on stage, because a lot of anger out there, a lot of, very real passion. This is not a game. These are real economies. These are millions of jobs. These are real realities. This is not some sort of Fox News entertainment thing. Right. So, I mean, it's going to be a long, long 4 years. That's all I can say on that.
My one word for 2025 is #complexity. How's that work?
Well, mine is volatility. Volatility is the new normal. Uncertainty, unreality. And I caution and challenge my business clients to think about that. I mean, we need to align to a world in which there's going to be a lot of surprise and a lot of challenge and a lot of disruptive volatility. We've got to be prepared for it.
And that requires agility, doesn't it? I mean, being agile and nimble to adapt is critical. And innovation. Let's talk about innovation. And it stems from a combination of opportunities and disruption. Innovation is about doing things better. It's not necessarily specifically about tech. Share some examples of industries that are currently experiencing dynamic innovation because of the AI-inspired world that we're in.
Well, I mean, a very real example is one of my clients. I was just a year ago this week, I was over in Dublin with a company called Icon PLC. pharmaceutical research company, clinical trial manager. So they manage the global trial of the Pfizer BioNTech COVID vaccine, 64,000 patients. And, I spent some time with them talking through what are the opportunities and challenges and the disruptive ideas that are unfolding in clinical pharmaceutical research. How can we better manage drug trials with AI? How can we reinterpret the vast volumes of data we already have utilizing sophisticated large language models? How can we better recruit patients and analyze the patient profile for a particular drug test? And all this stuff is really, really critical because most drug trials are wildly unsuccessful. They don't recruit enough satisfactory patients. They don't run their full course. We've got tremendous amounts of data which we never managed to utilize. So an organization like that is thinking big and hard about what is the real transformative opportunity here, but also realizing this is not a magic formula. This is not a panacea. This thing is, this takes hard work and commitment and investment if it's to be really disruptive.
Fascinating. Let's pivot to the education sector that we're so passionate about. What are your predictions for the role of AI playing in transforming learning environments and empowering educators and students, and from a work and learning and professional learning perspective as well?
Well, look, let's get right to the big issue. Everybody's running around, everybody's going to lose their job to an AI. This is just foolishness. This is the hype. There's a tremendous amount of AI hype. There's no doubt that there are powerful tools emerging here. The way I explain it is, vast numbers of people are probably not going to lose their job to an AI or a machine doing the work. On the other hand, they might find themselves in very strong job competition or career competition to those who have empowered themselves to fully utilize AI tools. And a very good example of what is happening, have spent the Christmas week skiing at our chalet up north, and I'm talking to a lot of young people who are in the computer programming industry, and there is massive opportunity in using the tool like Claude AI to write computer code. I'm even doing it too. I just wrote a little website, random.jimcarroll.com, which generated a Node.js platform which grabs a random quote from my massive data set of thousands of daily inspiration posts to create a little website. It wrote the code for me. So there are tremendous opportunities in writing computer code, in enhancing our ability to grab the right knowledge at the right time for the right purpose, which I've called just-in-time knowledge for the last 30 years. There's no doubt this is going to permit tremendous challenge, change, and opportunities for the education sector. But it's not something that is going to make everybody irrelevant. I've got, articles from Popular Mechanics magazine in the 1940s, talking about the fact that giant robot brains are going to put everybody out of work. And they're going to, it's just, we got to get rid of the hype and get down to the reality. We have to learn how to use this as a tool and come to, develop a real, understanding of the role it can play in our education process.
Fascinating. So, we had our Canadian EdTech Summit at the University of Toronto this past fall, and Andreas Schleicher from the OECD gave us welcoming remarks, and he mentioned digital transformation at least 10 times. It doesn't happen at the pace we always expect. And post-COVID, and we last chatted during COVID, and you built your studio and you really pivoted and kept the ball rolling despite the fact that you weren't out doing keynotes in person, and you become quite the techie, I gather.
This gives you a little bit of a sense of the room I'm coming from here. This is a wild studio. There's a phrase I often use on stage, and it's attributed to Bill Gates. Most people tend to overestimate the rate of change in a 2-year basis, but underestimate how much change will occur in a 10-year basis. That's happening with AI. The ridiculous amount of hype out there right now. Everybody thinks, in 2 years, every job is going to disappear, a machine's going to be doing all the work and all this silliness. That's goofy. But on a 10-year basis, careers, jobs in industries will be transformed in various ways by what is going on.
Well said. You're a CPA by training. I'm blessed with twins that are both CPAs. They pivoted to investment banking, but one did a master's in AI accounting.
Yeah, and I'm actually in CPA Magazine Canada right now talking about that, and it goes to that same core point. I mean, accountants aren't going to disappear, the audit process isn't going to
Right.
disappear, but there is tremendous opportunities unfolding for them to streamline the process, to be more intelligent with the process, to change the process of what is done as an accountant, utilizing a lot of very sophisticated AI-based tools.
I am writing a book on the future of work. And I know you're in the middle of writing a book as well, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that. But it's really helping people anticipate and optimize their skills to thrive in the AI inspired world. Talk to me about the importance of being agile through upskilling. And we have the 7 C's that we coined for C21 Canada, not for profit. We launched about 15 years ago. Critical thinking, computational thinking, communication, storytelling. How important is all that going forward?
I go back to a phrase by an educator named Lewis Perlman many years ago. Learning is what most adults will do for a living in the 21st century. And wow. let me put some context on that. I was just on a call this morning with a healthcare group, and I was explaining to them that before the pandemic, it was estimated that global medical knowledge was doubling every 8 years. It is now estimated that is doubling every 78 days. The typical medical professional cannot keep up with all of the knowledge that is emerging, all the new forms of diagnostic, all the new medical procedures, all the new medical technology, all the new forms of medical devices, all the new forms of AI vision interpretation of x-rays. Yeah, you simply can't keep up. So that brings me to my core operative phrase about knowledge, just-in-time knowledge. It's our ability to get the right knowledge at the right time for the right purpose that truly defines your success. And that means developing the ability to go out and get that knowledge when we need it. We can't know everything anymore. And so we've got to be teaching people not just core sets of knowledge, but how to go and get it. That's one of the most critical things we need to be doing.
And hence communication and the whole notion of prompt engineering, it's going to redefine reading, writing, arithmetic in education. There are more important things than that alone. Jim, you've worked with some of the biggest names in industry. Can you share a standout example of a company or leader that has successfully leveraged the trends that you've identified to innovate and stay ahead of the curve? We know many companies, Canadian companies, that thrived and disappeared. Nortel, RIM, BlackBerry. Talk to us about that.
Well, so the first thing is to understand the word innovation. I think everybody hears it and they think, well, that's for someone like this late Steve Jobs, who's inventing real cool products that change the world, and all the type of stuff that's emerging at CES right now in Las Vegas. To me, innovation is a different thing. It's about me as a CEO asking myself, what can I do with my team to help my business run better, to help my business grow, and to help transform my business and perhaps disrupt my business. And when we put it into that style of thinking, the opportunities become really clear. And I mean, I've got, an example. It's basically not a household name. It's not a very exciting story, but somebody I've worked with twice, and I look at them with some fondness for how they've taken on the mission. A company called Amstead Rail in St. Louis, Missouri. They manufacture rail car bogies. These are the undercarriage of rail cars. And they brought me in, and their mindset is, look, we know that 3D printing and manufacturing is going to be critical. We know that robotics are going to be extremely important. We know that integrating Internet of Things connectivity technology into our products so that we can provide some insight of when a breakdown might occur is going to be important. This is a facility that has a 120-year-old steel foundry as part of its operations. But at the same time, they have what they call the Xbox room. And in that room, you find 4 young engineers, very computer literate, who understand 3D printing, understand IoT technology, understand robotics, understand advanced manufacturing. And they've set them loose on those 4 core missions. how can we use these advanced trends in technology to run our business better, grow our business, transform our business, disrupt our business? To me, that's innovation. And that's the type of thing that a lot of organizations can pursue. It's a thing that a lot of organizations miss because they tend to think that innovation is the late Steve Jobs model of simply designing new things. It's not that. It's so much more than that.
Well said. Final advice, what would you give to leaders and organizations who want to embrace AI-powered future while staying true to their mission and values?
Don't get caught up in the hype. I mean, a lot of what I've talked about concerns the timing of the trends. A lot of what I talk about involves the reality of the trends. It involves a deeper understanding of the trends. I mean, if you hit jimcarroll.ai, my AI-based website, I mean, I've got a whole bunch of examples of companies I've spent time with in the insurance sector, the manufacturing sector, pharmaceutical sector, retail sector. And what we're doing is we're giving them a bit of a reality check on what is unfolding in the short, medium, and longer term. And you got to have a strategic purpose for it. I mean, a lot of what is happening with AI right now, it's like the hot, new, sexy technology thing. I'm seeing people go, we got to do AI. Well, that's not the way you go at it. What is the strategic purpose that we are trying to discover here? And can we accomplish that in terms of the current maturity of the technology that is available? To me, this is a little bit like the early days of when the World Wide Web first appeared, or when e-commerce first appeared as an opportunity. And everybody got tremendously excited, and it turned on a lot of imagination machines, and people saw a lot of innovative opportunities, but it took some time for them to really unfold.
Jim, thank you so much for sharing your incredible insights with us today. As we navigate the age of AI, your expertise provides a valuable roadmap for educators, businesses, and leaders alike. Where can our audience learn more about how to connect with you and your upcoming book?
Well, the main site is jimcarroll.com. The AI site is jimcarroll.ai. I actually had a book I was writing in the fall, and I gave it to my wife, and she has it in the editing process. It's called Being Unique. Goes to that sort of Steve Jobs quote, the people who are the misfits, the rebels, the outliers, hire them. They're the people who are going to change the world. So it features an exploration of that storyline, has Curious George, Harry Nielsen, the rock singer, and a social scientist. But here's the other interesting thing is on December 15th, I wrote a blog post that was sort of the opposite of all the motivational guidance I've given over the years, demotivational guidance. On December 17th, I started writing the book. It was finished by December 29th. My wife is now formatting it. The book is called Embracing Mediocrity: How to Do Nothing Notable and Accomplish as Little as Possible. That's for real. That's the title. And you can learn about that one at mediocrity.jimcarroll.com. And it's 125 ways that you can accomplish as little as possible. It's a satire. But what I'm doing is I'm suggesting people get this book, they give it to their team, and have them look at it and identify how many of these 125 actions are we actually guilty of. And everybody I've shared a draft with the book so far is going, this is just wildly funny. This is so I'm excited for that one. That one might actually come out in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, I love the notion, and I know well-being and balance is really important. That's something that we strive to. I'm playing outdoor hockey tonight with my buddies in Humber Valley and Etobicoke, and you're off skiing. So I always encourage, folks that are immersed in high-pressure jobs and teaching and learning as well is incredibly challenging to get outdoors because there's really positive benefits. Thoughts on that?
Well, and to bring it back to AI, so I mean, I've skied 12 days so far in Ontario. We're members at a private club up north. I actually have an app on my watch which generates incredibly detailed information on every single ski run, every single second. I downloaded all that and I fed that to Claude AI, an AI program, and had it write some computer code to analyze my skiing activity over the break. And I can tell you, if I pull up the stats here, because I was telling them to my wife and she didn't have any interest in it whatsoever. I by virtue of using this AI tool, I determined that over the break, I actually skied 45,473 meters of vertical in Ontario for a total distance of 215.2 kilometers, top speed of 79.6 kilometers. My total time in the hill was 41 hours with total downhill time of 452.5 minutes. Totally useless insight, but you know, I was able to pull that together by analyzing gigabytes of data on my skiing activity.
You're inspiring me to try that for my hockey, and who knows where I would have been. You know, I had played hockey with Wayne Gretzky growing up, but I might have gone a little further if I had that technology available.
Yeah,
with that,
exactly.
thank you so much. Fantastic. As to our listeners, thank you for tuning into this episode of MindShareTV. Don't forget to subscribe and stay connected with more thought-provoking conversations. Until next time, stay healthy, stay curious, and keep the learning curve steep.
Thank you.